Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I'm Jeanne ASAP, your producer and empowerment strategist. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about the healing power of flower essences. I think we've talked about them a little bit here or there over the years, but we've never done a proper show, and I'm looking forward to bringing back to you Jeanne Peters. Jeannie's been on more shows than anyone else, any other guest. She's a registered dietitian. She is the co-founder of the Nourishing Wellness Medical Center. And here's a little bit more about Jeanne Peters. Jeannie has a passion to help empower her clients to eat well and enjoy an active, healthy life at any age. She has followed a career path that has earned her recognition as an expert in food, nutrition, and healthy aging. She received her BS degree in clinical nutrition from the State University of New York at Buffalo in 1979. Over the past 35 years and more, she has provided nutrition services for a broad range of clients, including Pritikin Systems, Kathy Smith, LA Kings, Mattel Corporation, Chez Melange Inc., and Richard Simmons, where she helped launch his successful Deal-A-Meal program in 70-plus health clubs across the country. Jeannie was named California Recognized Young Dietitian of the Year in 1990 and is co-founder of the Nourishing Wellness Medical Center with Doc Allen, her husband of over 34 years. She offers personalized nutrition coaching, whole foods cooking classes, and healthy aging seminars geared towards women and men who want to be nourished by the fountain of youth. And one of the reasons why I always bring Jeannie back is because, like me, Jeannie has a wealth of tools, and one of those tools in the toolbox are flower essences. And I thought it was time to bring you this very non-toxic, completely 100% safe, natural vibrational medicine that anyone can use for anything. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome back to the show, Jeannie.
Oh, great to be here, JJ.
This show is a long time coming also. Flower essences are very powerful, and I've been using them. You've been recommending them, and I know you're supercharged about using them, especially now with what's been going on with you guys. So let's start off by educating people. What are flower essences?
Oh, yeah, that's a great place to start. I mean, they're very different from things like essential oils. So flower essences are like a liquid extract made from a flower. So if you were to take, let's say, a rose, and you were to put it into water under the sun, that rose has a frequency, right? It's got a vibration. So that vibration is then imparted into that water, and that water then is changed. So typically, when people are making flower essences, they would do it early in the morning on a sunny day, and they would let the plant sit in that water and be infused by the warmth of the sun. And then that's considered the archetype of that plant. And then anybody who makes essences then would preserve that, usually with some kind of alcohol, and then it's being used. So I've made many flower essences, and it's that simple. But then you can buy flower essences, and many of them that would be the mother, and then from there the mother would be made into like individual little bottles. So basically, just think of it as the frequency of all beautiful plants, and every plant has a frequency.
And every plant has a medicinal characteristic, it sounds like, because I know that there's many different kinds of flower essences, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it's really important when you think about what makes flower essences unique, I think you have to go back to the physician who actually founded flower essences. I think it's maybe you might have used Bach flower remedies. Does that name ring a bell? BACK, Bach flower remedies?
I thought it was BACH.
Excuse me, it is Rescue Remedy.
Yep.
Okay. So Dr. Bach developed flower essences in 1930, and he was a physician living in England. And he was one of the very first physicians to recognize the fact that we were way more than just a physical body. He believed that we actually had a spirit, that we had an etheric body, like our electrical body, and that we had an astral body. And he had the insight to recognize that plants could be something that could help to heal these various bodies, to bring us more into harmony, not only with nature, but also with harmony within our own nature. So he lived out in the countryside, and he started developing these flower remedies. And the way that we got the name Rescue Remedy was because somebody in the neighboring village, was drowning, and they had pulled him up out of the ocean, and Dr. Bach ran into his office, grabbed 5 remedies very intuitively, and those particular remedies helped to bring this person out of shock, help them to revive and to be able to, basically live. So that became his first set of remedies, was 5 rescue remedy from that particular experience. But since then, people have been using flower essences, but he really was the grandfather that really helped us to have this expanded view of health, where he realized that what was happening to the human at that time was that we were really out of balance with our emotions and our mental conditions, that a lot of what he was treating were, really much more what we would call now psychological issues or stress-related issues. So I think it's important to recognize that, because part of what any of the flower remedies are able to do is to help bring our bodies back into a deeper state of awareness, and also a deeper state of balance. That's the gift, I believe, that flower remedies in particular are able to impart to us as humans. And by the way, to our pets and even our plants. So did we ever go ahead and do remedies for your cats? I can't remember. I know we've done remedies for you, but.
Well, you know what? As you just say that now, we haven't done one for sugar, and I would like to, because even though I'm working with Val Hart, who does work with animals and animal communication,
Oh, yes.
and she does soul repair and body talk and all kinds of different things. I would love a remedy for sugar to help with her own vibrational state. So let's talk about that. But before we go into that, whether it be on the show or after the show, I want to go back and, you've been using flower essences for a long time. And you were the one that told me about during my wedding, Ken, who was the California lawyer turned Hawaiian resident on a farm of ancient lands doing flower essences. And I had a flower essence reading with him because at your recommendation after my wedding. And that was a very unique experience. And I know I have that recording somewhere. I actually really would love to dig it up right now. But it was one of those powerful, unique sessions and consultations that I've ever had, because here's this lawyer who used to live in Los Angeles as an environmental lawyer, moves to Kauai, buys a property in Kilauea it's on ancient land and is not supposed to dig in it, right? There's all this history about that land. And then when we did our flower essence reading, and I don't remember, do you remember what yours was like? You and Alan did one, didn't you?
Yes, we each did one. And first of all, it was phenomenal because you could feel the energy of that space. I mean, do you remember? I think I went into his office, but he took us on a tour of his property, which was astounding. So I already felt like there was a definite energy that was unique to that particular space. And I think he was super tuned in, JJ. I still remember mine. Mine was wonderful. It was a great reading.
Well, what I remember, and I recorded it, and I'm pretty sure I shared it with you 15 years ago at this point. And what had happened for me, my ex-husband had his, and it was like a light and fluffy kind of reading. I don't, it was a little bit general. It was whatever. It was good enough. And then I went, and he pulled 3 different essences for me. And as he was reading his books about what they stood for, it became like a deeper, not darker, but heavier, kind of like transformative. Like he was even bothered by my reading, because he's like, most of the time people come in and they're kind of like surface readings. And I've never had this kind of reading
where
I
remember that. Yes.
I remember him telling me that I had like the desire to grow like a spiritual leader, like a religious figure.
Yes.
And which of course scared my ex probably into where we ended up. But I remember and I recorded it, and I know I have it somewhere. And it's in retrospect. I know I talked about it on Michael Beckwith's show that I did with him because it's like sat with me this entire time. But there was something really powerful about, and it had to do with masculine energy. But I remember, and Ken, I'm sure, is still in business, Kauai flower essences, and he's got this amazing property. But, that was a long time ago. That was 2008 that we did that. And you've been using them ever since. And I know that you've had some successes with them. So as a dietitian, as a functional medicine practitioner, what I love about Jeannie, and she's one of my number one recommendations most of the time for anyone dealing with anything physical and medical when it comes to aging or pain or natural ways of pain, is that you do use homeopathy, you do use flower essences. And so let's talk about the strength and the effectiveness compared to, allopathic medicine, and even with what's happened with Doc Allen recently.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say that how I got into flower essences was 25 years ago, JJ. It was way before that experience that we had in Hawaii. And part of that was because we were going through a family crisis. I mean, Alan was an ER doc. He was in deep burnout as an ER doc for over 35 years. And I was seeking more balance with our family. So I had been using Rescue Remedy for both myself and for Alan. And I think it had made a bit of a difference. But I had gone into a bookstore. It was actually right here in Morosa Beach. I had like $20 to spend. And I thought, I'm just, whatever speaks to me is what I'm going to get. And there was a book in flower essences. And when I opened it up, the page I opened it to was for a flower essence called borage. And borage is the essence that you use to bring forth courage. And at that time, what I know I needed was the courage to encourage our family to get into more balance, because Alan was way out of balance with his life. And I really do feel like at that moment, those flowers helped me. We were able to move to Cambria with my 4-year-old son. I was really interested in starting a Waldorf school. I felt like I had the courage to find those people. I just felt like flower essences for me helped to stimulate and build the bridge between what I wanted and my will. It was like there was a bridge that I needed, and flower essences was like the catalyst to stimulate the awareness and to allow for the insight and the strength to move forward. So yes, that's what it started. That's, why we moved to Cambria. And then, we ended up coming back. But at that time, flower essences were key for me to live more in sync with the natural rhythms of the universe. And I think that's one of the benefits that flower essences can do on a very practical level, but on a very profound level, like you experienced when you had that reading with Ken, was that he planted something that was already living in your soul. And that was this idea that you have a big vision, and he was able to bring forth, if I remember one of your flower essences, I want to say was Tiger Lily. And Tiger Lily is bringing the feminine, the deep, deep feminine into and connecting it with your will so that you can take your ideas forward into the world. It'll be interesting to go back and take a look at what were those remedies, but I think that was one of them. So I think, that was my experience. That's how I got started with them. And actually, when we moved up to Cambria, I was able to use I ended up becoming so entranced with what was happening in a very short period of time that I actually enrolled in a program to become a certified flower essence practitioner up in the Sierra Nevadas. And it was a 10-day course. And that's where I really recognized the power of these remedies to work on the 4 different aspects of our being: the physical, the etheric, which is like our electrical magnetic force, the life force that we have, the force that animates this physical body, the astral body, which is the part of our body, a part of ourself that has emotions and feelings. And then finally, the spirit, where our ego resides, where our immune system lives. So the flowers actually can help with each one of those different aspects of the body and help to knit them into a unified whole so that people can feel more of a profound sense of being really in balance, deep, deep balance with their true self.
I want you to talk about what happened with Dr. Allen recently and your use of homeopathy and flower essences.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So JJ's referring to the fact that we just recently got back from Hawaii. We had signed up for an Ironman relay, and then my 2 sons were doing the full, not the full Ironman, it's a 70.3 Ironman, which means that they're doing 70.3 miles. Part of it is a swim, part of it is bike, part of it is a run. And I, in the relay part, did the swim. My husband was to do the bike, and then Justin's girlfriend was to do the run. And about 21 miles into the 56-mile bike ride that he was doing, somebody ahead of him hit a water bottle and crashed over, and then Alan moved out of the way, and then another guy clipped him and caused Alan he got crashed between the two of them. So he went down and he actually fractured his pelvis, unfortunately in 4 places. So, pelvic fractures are not an easy injury to heal. So at that point, he was disqualified from going further. But, we're in Hawaii and we're going to make the best of it. So we got him to an ER, and we found out that because of these injuries, he was not going to be able to fly back home. So I ran to the local health food store and I got Rescue Remedy. So Rescue Remedy is the remedy I was mentioning that Dr. Bach developed. It's 5 different plants. One of them is Star of Bethlehem. It's a beautiful 6-pointed flower that really helps with shock and suffering and even the acceptance of something in which you're going to be in deep suffering for a while. So that's started him immediately on that. Thankfully, this was a hospital that was also on ancestral land, and everybody that worked at this 30-bed hospital was totally in sync with whatever I wanted to add to already the regimen that they were putting him through. So I also put him on 2 homeopathic remedies. One is Symphytum. It's a plant that is called bone knit. It helps to knit the bones together. And then the other one was Calcera Phos. And so we started him on, using that every 4 hours. And surprisingly, just even in the 4 days that we were there, when they did the set of x-rays to send him home, already the physician could see that he was laying down bone. And he said, this is shocking to me that I can see that you're already laying down bone. So whatever you're doing, it's working. So I was like, yes. So we've been doing that ever since. And I have to say, he's walking, today he walked without his walker for the first time for, maybe up and down the stairs and a little bit around the house. So he's a strong guy. He's going to manage, but it's still very painful. And that's part of the medicine of healing.
Well, and I'm sure, unlike, how old is Dr. Allen right now?
79. He'll be 80 in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Unlike other 79-year-olds who haven't been on bioidentical hormones for as long as his ability to repair and the substrates and the minerals and the things that he already has in his bones and his blood and he's got everything he needs literally to make this a lot faster than someone else who hasn't been keeping up again hormonally and watching those levels. So I just want to shout that out too. So it's not just it is absolutely flower essence but we can't ignore the fact
that he has strong bones, and because he is on testosterone. And also, it's a whole nother show, but we just happen to have brought some peptides with us, which BPC 157 is an amazing peptide of 40 amino acids that, oddly enough, I just threw this in my bag. I didn't know I was going to be needing it, but it does help to optimize bone strength and actually synthesis of bone. So yeah, we started him on that right away. So I think that's why his x-rays after 4 days already showed, some real improved calcium deposition in those fractured areas.
Yeah, I have used flower essences a few times, recommended by you most of the time. But I remember when I worked with Lynn, she had also given me a flower essence remedy that I thought was effective. Again, what I love about flower essences as vibrational medicine and homeopathy, which, by the way, you and I need to do a show on the constitutional remedies.
Sure. Love that.
Because I really think that people, when you're looking at, and I just recommended this to somebody, one of my mastermind members who's also one of my trainers, I wanted her to work with you because going back into balance, like there are some very simple, easy things that we can do. And again, homeopathy and flower essences are 2 of those. So let's go back to flower essences for a second, because again, the effectiveness of them. And what I also love about them is that anyone can take them, pregnant, on medication. Like there's no contraindications, there's no dangers, there's no risk. It's basically an imprinted vibrational water.
Yes. And it's helping to expand, your own sense of awareness, which, who can't benefit from having an expanded sense of awareness? So it's helping to take you closer to realizing your full potential as a human being. There's so much noise in our lives, JJ. So anything that, would help you to lower the volume of that noise, so you could hear more your inner voice. That's the power of flower essences. They can help restore our connection. I always say they help us restore our connection to nature so that we can hear and work on our true nature. So that can come forth, with more ease. So yeah, so they're very different, like chemical, they're not like chemical drugs. I mean, you can take them with any kind of medication and they're not going to cause any contraindication. So that's a beautiful aspect. And, many people find that it just helps them to feel calmer and clearer, and they're just better able to cope with life. But they're also, so they're profound, but they're also very practical. And
Well,
I could tell you several stories that are kind of interesting, and just in terms of how they showed up to help people heal.
Well, okay, let's talk about calming. So if a flower essence is bringing you back to nature and calming you, doesn't that by default help with cortisol?
Oh, absolutely. Particularly if yours is really elevated, but it doesn't necessarily even have to be elevated. Maybe yours, like I had a fellow yesterday whose cortisol was 3, and normal is 12. So in some ways he needs to sort of activate, help his cortisol. Other people are, living in the fast lane, and they're, going. And maybe if they're the type that does, double workouts, and their cortisol is so elevated. So it has that ability to calm those emotions down, to help, again, lower the noise or lower the volume of some of these hormones that are maybe amped up too high.
So I was standing here, as you know, in Rainbow Bridge, and I think Rainbow Bridge has
Oh
the
yeah,
best. They
yes.
have the best Bach options of any other store I've ever been to.
Mm,
And I'm standing there looking at them, and I thought to myself, because I was with my client Erin, who I want to have you do
oh
some
sure.
stuff with her, and I didn't even know where to begin. I'm like, other than muscle testing her, I was like, I don't even know which one of these would be right for her. Now that's possibly because also there's not like some huge explanation on the actual display when you go
Right.
into the store. But where would people, besides, of course, working with you, which would be the best, where would people even begin to sort of explore, well, what would I take and why?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Most people are confused where to begin. So I'll tell you, when I did my training, one of the things that we did is that we were looking at pictures of flowers, and so our trainers had like 150 pictures of flowers that were on their property. And, they just asked us to go through and just, take 2 or 3 that just speak to you. And then on the back side of those pictures, were some truths about that. And we learned over a period of time that the flowers can give you clues. So just as an example, what would you say right now is a favorite flower of yours?
Well, rose is always a flower that I love. Jasmine is another flower that I love. And then a third would be, of course, plumeria.
Plumeria, sure. So if you think of rose, I mean, that doesn't surprise me you would say rose, because rose of almost all the flowers is one of the highest frequencies. And rose is really about, creating this sense of self-love, increasing self-love, so that you can actually give more, you have more capacity for compassion and for a sense of connection with others. So that's a great place to begin. Just those of you that are listening, think of the flowers that, speak to you, that excite you when you see them. For me, one of the flowers that always spoke to me was sunflower. And when I was really starting to work more closely with the flowers that would help me, a sunflower increases positive self-awareness, just being more aware. You know me well enough to know that, I can be asleep at the wheel. I'm sometimes not the best when it comes to focus. And so sunflower was just really a remedy that helped me increase my self-awareness. And the other flower that I used to love was blackberry. And I grow blackberries right now. And that flower, for whatever reason, really helped to stimulate my will, again, to act on my own intentions. So I would say just start with what excites you. And then if you wanted to, you could just pop in whatever those flowers are, just write in flower essence for that. Say flower essence, rose flower essence. And, more than likely something's going to come up, and that will give you some indications. But I also think another way is just to look at, what is it that you would really like to bring forth within yourself? Because what flowers do is they help you to activate that aspect. So it may be like, I'll give you an example. When I was living in Santa Cruz, there was a flower that grew during the summer, and it was called St. John's wort. So St. John's wort it goes into full bloom on the longest day of the year. It only blooms for like 2 or 3 days. So it's right at midsummer. So it's on June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. That's when that flower comes into full bloom. And then you don't see it. Well, St. John's wort, it turns out, is now, we're finding it's really wonderful for people who have depression. Guess why? It is bringing that solar light into your body so that you can actually, to bring more light helps to bring you out of the darkness. St. John's wort I used for Alan because as an ER doc, he would work for 24 hours in overhead lighting. He never saw the light of the sun. He was working in conditions so that when he would get home, he couldn't fall asleep. He would have struggles with that. So I use St. John's wort because not only does it provide spirit protection, but it also helps to regulate our circadian rhythms and to get those rhythms back into balance. So think of every flower. It has indications that can help you on a physical basis, but also maybe on a spiritual capacity to help bring forth certain aspects forward that would allow you to feel more in balance with your life. And part of what I like to do is if I was, when I work with clients, can I give you just a real quick example of how I help somebody? So I had a pediatrician that referred me a patient about a month ago. This patient was 17 months old now, was 18 months old. And what had happened is he had a cleft palate. So there was going to be a point in time where they wanted to reconstruct his face so that he would be able to swallow and eat better. And at the time that the pediatrician was referring me, the little boy was absolutely so fearful of even having the mother feed him. Like she would have to put food down and he would eat it. But if she tried to feed him or got near his face, he would freak out. Well, when I got the history from the mother, she told me that when he had that operation, the nurses were surrounding him and were they had to put a breathing tube down his face. And that was the last thing he remembered before he came out of the surgery. And that was so devastating and freaked him out so much that ever since that surgery, anybody that would get near his face would freak him out. So I realized I'm not going to be able to get this boy to eat more until we deal with the trauma that he had. So I got him onto some rescue remedy. Rock rose is one of the remedies in rescue remedy, and it helps to prevent it. It just helps a child to feel more calm. And then there's the Star of Bethlehem, which helps with the shock of what he was going through. And those flowers, just even within 24 hours, the mother noticed that he just felt a lot calmer when she put food on his plate. She wasn't able to feed him. Then I had her go ahead and rub the set of remedies on his feet when he went to bed and to just give her son a prayer of helping to bring him more into balance. The next morning she got up and she had just touched his face, and normally he would push her away, and she was just shocked to find that he didn't do that. And within 2 days, she was able to feed him. So remember, children don't have the kind of consciousness that we have. But just even within 48 hours, there was an unbelievable movement towards calmness because some of that trauma had been resolved. It had been released. And now he's eating fine. He's 18 months and he's doing really well. So that's an example of like a mother who might want to look for a remedy for their child. Justin went through a phase when he was 4 where he's just freaked out about monsters under his bed. And we used lavender and chamomile flower essences. And I used it on his feet and I put it into his water and just snuck it in, and about a week later, that just really, it just kind of just let go. It wasn't even like, I noticed it. I just noticed that he just wasn't complaining about it. So, but when it comes to our own self, oftentimes it's just, what is it that we want to bring forth into the world? That's a great place to start with looking at a flower essence and working with a practitioner. They can often ask those questions to help clarify what those flowers might look like for you.
And when we mean work with a practitioner, it means work with Jeanne. She will not say that, but I will, because unless your best friend is a flower essence practitioner, you probably don't know anybody else. So I'm saying that definitely use Jeanne for that. I'd love that you say sneak in, because I was like wondering, do I tell that story or do I not? And you know what I'm talking about, but I'll just say that if you have children or family members who are going through difficult times, and, while I am working with even just my trainers on not learning how to heal the rescuer within us, right? That we want to do everything for people. There's a certain point in which what can I do? And then there's the hands off stuff. When it comes to influencing some behaviors, flower essences are a great way to sneak things in. You can put it in your water and no one will know.
Yes.
And again, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. There's no drugs. There's nothing. It's not dangerous. So you can feel good about using some kind of remedy for your family or your partners or your parents without getting their permission because it's water. It's literally drops in water and that's it. And it's a great way to start to calm. That's why for the pets, right? I mean, you're not going to get a buy-in from the pets. Yes, I'm going to drink this water, but if you should change the vibration of the water they're drinking, and I want to talk to you before, either after this or later, Jeannie, about sugar and her, look at what her indicators are for healing and some of the things that emotionally that I would love to see change in order for her healing to progress faster. That would be great. The other two are doing fine. But yeah, flower essences are so easy. And again, I would put them in your arsenal of things to try before giving up on, everything.
It's so true, JJ. And I remember that, Alan's, has come a long ways. But, initially when I first started working with flower essences, I think he just kind of rolled his eyes and thought, okay, whatever. He hadn't really done his training, at this point. He was still an ER doc. But I mean, he was really out of balance. And I did that. I actually snuck in a remedy called oak. And when you think of an oak tree, what do you think about? You think of this giant tree, right? So oak is the pattern of imbalance for somebody who would need oak would be somebody who's so iron-willed. It's my way or no way. They're inflexible. They overstrive, beyond their limits. I mean, this was my husband. He would be working these 24-hour shifts, and he was building houses, and he was getting his contractor's license. I mean, he just was pushing himself to the limits. And so I put oak in the morning, make breakfast. I'd put it into his water. And the qualities that oak would bring forth in a person would be more balanced strength, accepting your limits, knowing when to surrender. So I kid you not, I put this in. This was so I use it in the morning and the evening, 2 days. Alan has a dream on the third day. And in this dream, he is playing, this is at the time when Bill Clinton was president. He was playing basketball with Bill Clinton, and he was running down the court in his dream, and he goes to make a layup and he hits the wall. And when he hits the wall, he literally collapses. And then the part of the dream is that they have to take him to the ER, and they're working to go ahead and bring his heart back into rhythm. And it was oh my God, this dream was profound. I mean, it was literally I was seeing these qualities that we were looking to try to bring forth. So that's when I had to let him know, I've been putting this oak in your water. I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it. Well, who knows if it did or didn't. But for me, one of the things I've learned since I did my training is that often insights will come to you in your dreams. Synchronicities will start to show up more frequently. In your meditations, you may hear things or you may see images. So when people say, how will I know if flower essences are working? We talked about you might feel calmer, you might feel more clear, you might feel like you're able to cope more. But you also might just find insights will come to you that otherwise maybe just you might have just passed your attention. Maybe that attention will grab something and you'll be able to maybe see more deeply into a situation like my husband did with this particular dream, which made him realize, wow, I definitely need to go ahead and make some adjustments in my life.
What I love about the use of the flower essences, both for stimulating dreams and clarity in that way, it's using what you talked about with I think it's a St. John's wort, and with the one about trauma. Which one was that?
trauma is Star of Bethlehem.
Yeah. So Star of Bethlehem, and thinking about really gentle, natural ways to ease traumas that aren't so abrasive, that aren't so like, again, this is a very easy stuff. You spray it into your mouth, you put drops into water, you put drops under your tongue, you rub it on your feet, you spray it on your face. Like there are so many, it's just easy ways to bring down, again, this trauma energy that we carry. Because a lot of people who go through trauma end up carrying the energy of it way past their emotional body is fine. It's more of the spiritual, like you talked about, the other levels of these energy bodies that we carry that are still holding the energy of that. And I think that we have to think beyond just our physical body, but the energies that make up our aura, make up our energy field, and how we can use these to help those which may not have an immediate, like, shocking something that happens that you're 100% clear it's because of this, but it's that sort of easing into back to balance, easing into feeling grounded, easing into better sleeping, easing into being more intuitive. And all of a sudden, the problem that you just notice isn't around any longer. And so, both for health and emotional reasons.
I got to tell you, I never travel without flower essences. I get smaller bottles. So they're even smaller than the 1 ounce bottles that, you'd be able to go and travel with. But I've used them, so many times when just the trauma of traveling. I mean, travel used to be fun, but getting on an airplane and, like we used it when we were just getting on to take Alan back home, because we knew sitting on a plane for 5 hours was going to be traumatizing. So that's the very practical aspect of them. But when you're dealing with, if you were just thinking in terms of a remedy that anybody could benefit from, I would say, start with like rescue remedy. It's just an easy one to help open up a new world of, possibility to things that, you may not realize that you're carrying certain traumas. It'll help to release some traumas. And it's a great one also if you've ever bought a pet, from a pet store, they have trauma. If you ever got a pet from a rescue place, they have trauma. So you are giving that pet such a gift when they've been abandoned and they've been living in fear and they've been in a shelter. I mean, you put that in their water, or you even just put it like on a cream and rub their feet with it. Oh my God, you're releasing this bondage that's keeping them stuck, so that they can move forward and be able to bring their full capacities, their emotional desire to want to support you, back into balance. I even used it with our chickens. When we've had chickens for many years, as you know, but, when we had a couple that were injured, a couple that were killed, all the chickens were traumatized, because they all saw, one of our chickens get killed. They all needed that. So I just rubbed rescue remedy on the bottom of their feet. I put it into cream because that's an easy way to apply it to the paws of a cat or a dog, or to put it on their ears, on the tips of their ears. And you'll see that, a lot of times when you would put these remedies on, it's almost like you can feel the animal almost instantly start to just have a little more ease in their body. So yeah, there are so many benefits that can help you to, improve your loved ones, your pets, but also yourself.
Okay, so we have to talk. We've got sugar. We've got. I want to find one for Doug. Let's see. I think Luna and Domino are the happiest they've ever been. So we're good there.
I love it.
And I still have a blend. The Sacred Heart that you recommended.
Yes.
So I still have that one. I just haven't been taking it because most of my boxes are still packed. So I'm going to dig out the rescue remedy right away for the cats, which I know where it is, and my Sacred Heart for myself. So let's talk about, is there any information different? I mean, it's JP at nourishingwellness.com. It's nourishingwellness.com.
Yes.
Are there any other contact information that you have, or other information on flower essences?
Well, I would just like to say, if anybody's listening to this and you're just thinking, I would really love to go ahead and do something. I mean, I'm happy, for the first, 3 to 5 people that might be interested. I mean, I'm happy to go ahead and do a personalized formula for you. Normally it's like $125, but I would be happy to do it for $75. So if somebody was interested, that would include like a 45-minute session and then like a 20-minute follow-up 2 weeks later just to see how your remedy is working. So I'm happy to, listen to, what your story is, to help you identify maybe 3 or 4 flowers that would help you to move towards some intention. And so that I just throw that out to your guest.
So you're making remedies now?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let's put me on that list.
Okay. So $75 gets you, a 45-minute session and then a 20-minute follow-up session 2 weeks later. Because a lot of times they'll have things that will show up and they may find, oh my God, but usually it's nice to be able to work with a remedy or a set of remedies for a month. There's something about like a month. So I always provide enough remedies so people would have enough for like taking it 4 times a day for 1 month, so that you would get included with that. So it's a great way to go ahead and get started. So.
And let's say JP at nourishingwellness.com.
Yeah.
That would be how you email her. And I will put all. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say, or they can go to the website. I don't have anything on flower essences at the website, but I've realized just recently, JJ, that it's absolutely essential to all of my consults now. So I'm just incorporating them into the consults, because even somebody who maybe has weight loss resistance, they just are trying to increase a greater commitment to exercise, to live with more intention around their physical life. Remedies can be really helpful to help amplify those intentions.
Yep.
So yeah, they're definitely part of my tools. They're another tool in the toolbox.
I understand. And Jeanne's got a lot of them. So whether it be hormones, anti-aging, weight loss resistance, flower essences, trauma, healing, bones. I mean, just so much. So JP at Nourishing, this is why she's been on the show a million times. Well, because you're a wealth of knowledge. So why would I have anybody else on? JP at nourishingwellness.com and nourishingwellness.com. Both links will be in the show notes, as well as her phone number for the office. But if you're one of the first 5 people, you're going to get what is $120 for $75, which includes a remedy, and a remedy sent to you that you can take to help with whatever you're dealing with, or someone that you love, or a family, something for the entire family that everybody can use. But just be sure to be in touch, take advantage of this offer ASAP. And Jeanne, as always, our next show is going to be on homeopathy and finding your constitutional remedy. Okay.
Oh, I think that would be wonderful. I think, again, what a gift to be able to offer to people, because homeopathy is so cheap, non-toxic, safe, and to be able to have something that you can just keep in your pocket that's going to help you to feel more in balance. Who couldn't, benefit from that? So yes, let's do it.
We're going to do that again in the future. Thank you, Jeanne, again for being here again.
All right. Thanks, JJ. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.